What is up, everybody? This is Daniel Derryberry back with another video, continuing the series that I started around a month ago called So You Want to Be a Bodybuilder. This topic I wanted to go over is pretty short, but I wanted to kind of drive it home to people because it's something a lot of people are not considering whenever they make that statement that I want to be a bodybuilder. um, and I obviously didn't realize what I was getting myself into when I first started. So this is kind of I guess, a reminder to some people, or rather just a reality check for a moment, because I'm about to go into exactly what I spend per month to pursue this sport at the level that I'm at. Somebody who has competed at a national show to try to win my pro card, which obviously I say try to. That's kind of one way to put it, but really I was just going for the experience because I knew I still had 15 pounds to add to my weight class. So I definitely knew I wasn't going to be cracking at my pro card this last time, but it was worth the attempt just to go up there and see what it was like. It was a lot different than a state show. I'll say that. So I've won a national, or sorry, I've won a national qualifier, at open overall in bodybuilding in the heavyweight class, and then I competed at North Americans last year, or sorry, this year. It'll be next. It'll be last year here soon. Um, but I placed like 15th out of 24 or 25 people there. But like I said, I was 15 pounds under weight cap. I brought condition, I just didn't bring the size. So, um, good learning experience, but I'll come back next time a lot bigger and hopefully the same conditioning. But anyway, what I wanted to get into in this video is specifically a breakdown of what I spend per month on bodybuilding. Um, so, who can take a guess at how much I'm spending per month? Because I'm going to go ahead and just put it out there and I'll break it down. I'm spending $1,200 a month on average to pursue the sport of bodybuilding. Now, to some people, that might be like a jaw dropper, like holy shit. And to some people, that'd be like, oh, that's not that bad, actually. Just depends on the person. Depends on what your expectations are when it comes to your investment in the sport. So to break that down, that $1,200 comes from around $500 in groceries. Now that's a very rough estimate. Some months are probably more, some months are probably less. Best way that you can decide to, or choose to save money in regards to grocery shopping is be a price hunter. Understand the unit price. Understand that brand names, for certain products. I say products, manufactured good, whatever. Certain things that you can buy in the grocery store, there are cheaper options out there if you just buy the non-name brand or the store brand. Like say you go to Walmart, you can buy great value. Now, not everything do I do that for. Like I'm kind of particular with some things. Like for example, Rice Krispie treats. I get Rice Krispie treats. There's a great value form of them, um, but I don't think I want to risk them not tasting like Rice Krispie treats, like the ones that I like. Because they do have a ingredient profile that makes them taste the way that they do. So, but that's like pennies, right? So anyway, what I'm trying to say is one way to, because that's the bulk of what you're going to be spending your money on. A lot of people think it's going to be the steroids. A lot of people think it's going to be the coach. I think it's the groceries. I think the groceries cost the most because the bigger you get as a bodybuilder, the more food you're going to require to keep accruing muscle. So, somebody right now who's like me, I'm 236 pounds today. I'm eating 5,100 calories on average between my 5,400 calorie training days and my 40 something hundred calorie non training days. I forget how much, maybe 4,400 or somewhere around there. Um, it requires a lot of food. I require a lot of food to put on muscle, to put on weight. And I'm relatively lean for 236. I would say, that number's only going to get higher, right? So just something to consider, buy at bulk wholesale clubs if you can, like Sam's Club or Costco, if you have one of those available to you. Um, and maybe don't invest your money in all the organic or whatever. Like if I buy chicken breast, I'm buying the basic cheap ass chicken breast. I'm not buying, maybe in prep, if you're at the like tail end of it and you're worried about, getting some bad chicken or whatever, maybe you could invest the money in the higher priced chicken, like $4+ per pound. But the chicken I'm buying at Sam's, I think it just went up from 268 a pound to like 275 or something like minuscule. But I do that. I have a deep freezer at home and I just freeze all my stuff in bulk. So that's one way to save money. I guess another tip on that too is if you can utilize your credit score to your advantage. I have a pretty good credit score, so I applied for a Sam's Club credit card since I shop there a lot. And I did the math between me and my girl per like just last year. I think it was like we spent around 4 grand total at Sam's Club. And if you look into their Mastercard, their credit card that you apply for, plus the Plus membership, which is like the upgraded membership from base, you get a total of 5% cash back when using the credit card and being a Plus member. So you take that 5% and put that into 4 grand, you make a little bit of your money back. You get a free membership technically, and then you get a little bit of money back. So you're actually saving even more money. So that's just like a quick tip that I would mention about groceries. It's just know where to shop, look at unit price, understand buying in bulk can be cheaper. It's not always cheaper. I've done the math on that too. I've found stuff at Walmart that you're not buying in bulk that's cheaper than what you could buy at Sam's Club. Same product. So you just have to understand unit price. Other than that, though, groceries being around $500 a month. I've recently started investing in tissue work because I realize that's probably something I've neglected for a while. And the bigger and more advanced I get, the more I realize I'm probably going to need tissue work. I've noticed my mobility starts to become impacted the bigger that I get. So tissue work is probably an important thing. So for me, I get it twice a month, every 2 weeks roughly. And that can usually come out to around $90 to $100 for a 60-minute session. So 2 sessions, about $200. So $500, $200, $700 right there. Consider a coach. If you're going to hire a coach, which I did this self-coach for a really long time, coaches are not always, or good coaches are not going to be necessarily cheap. Now that might sound, I might need to clarify on that because I do coaching right now and I charge $80 a month. Reason why is because I don't have a lot of skin in the game. I don't have any like major client testimonials yet, so I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, you got to pay me $300 a month to hire me as a coach when I have nothing to show for my coaching so far. So I charge cheap still, but as soon as I get to a point where because it's just a matter of time at this point. The further along I get in the sport, the further along that I get in social media. There will come a point where my roster list is going to become so high in demand that I'm going to have to start charging more and then hopefully getting more serious clients. Because I find that the cheaper that I've been charging, the more non-serious clients that I've been getting who don't check in with me every week or don't follow the plan or don't even communicate with me whenever they're going off plan. So there's some negatives to not charging enough for coaching, but a good coach is going to charge anywhere from $300 to $500 a month. Like a good coach that's already got their skin in the game, they've already got testimonials, they've proven that their plan, their blueprint is working for their clients, and that's about what I pay per month right now. It's about $300. Now I don't pay monthly; I pay advancements, so like maybe 3 to 6 months in advance. But that averages down to about $300 a month. So I tag that on to the monthly budget, if you will. So that's an extra $300. So you've already got what, $1,000 right there between groceries, coaching, and tissue work. Now, tissue work is not a necessity. You can try to get some. You can probably try to buy one of those, muscle massagers at home. Those deep tissue massage percussion devices. Those work pretty effectively, but there's certain areas of my body I just can't hit like that. So this tissue work's definitely been a game changer for me this off season. It's helped loosen up some areas, keep my mobility loose in certain areas. So let's just say that's not like high priority yet. Well, still consider the performance enhancements. That roughly comes out to $100 to $200 a month, depending on what phase you're in, depending on how hard you're pushing things. I know I've pushed things where I'm probably spending $250 a month on PEDs, and then in a very low blast or a cruise, maybe $100 a month, whatever, between growth and, testosterone and whatever else, androgens that you're running. And then not even to mention the health supplements, because believe it or not, the health supplements are more expensive than the PEDs. If you actually invest in a good amount of health supplements that are beneficial for maintaining your longevity in the sport, you're probably running $150 a month on health supplements alone. And then you have to tag on blood work to that too. So what we got, let's just say high end, $200. So 500 groceries, 200 body work, 300 a coach. So you've already got 1,000 there. Then you got another 200 potentially on PEDs. So that's 1,200. And then if you're considering supplements, then you've got another 150. So that's already 1,350. And then if you're getting lab work, which is not every month, but every few months, that's roughly $200 if you're getting a full blown panel done. So yeah, you're already at a $1,500 right there. Not on average, but on one given month, you could be spending $1,500 easily. An average month for me is about 1,200, realistically speaking. But there's going to be some variance with that. Whenever I'm having to buy bulk groceries from the store or whatever. But really, what I'm getting at here, guys, is you gotta consider this sport is it's an expensive passion. It's an expensive passion that you hope one day will return on investment. But the true reality of the situation is most of us are never going to get the return on the investment. Most of us are never going to make it to the high enough level in the competitive sport, at the pro level, to make money doing it like full time. That's just the reality. That's why, right now I'm trying to get into the coaching thing because I realize, not to say that I want to have a backup plan because I'm busting ass every month right now, working towards my goals, and I know I have a pretty, as long as health metrics stay where I need them to stay, I've probably got a pretty long lifespan in this sport, being 23 years old right now. So coaching is just something I want to do on the side though because I'm passionate about this sport, and no matter if I'm a good bodybuilder competitively, I want to pour into the sport as much as I can. So if I can help other people with their own pursuits in the sport, then by all means, I'm going to do whatever I can to, like I said, pour into the sport. So that's something that I obviously do. But yeah, that's pretty much. I think I got out what I wanted to say as far as like what my budget pertains or entails. But point being is that bodybuilding is expensive. If you say that you want to be a bodybuilder, I've already gone over 2 episodes now talking over the other, things that you have to consider with the sport, but have you even considered the money part? Because then you have to have a good enough income to even afford to do it. And that's kind of what I've gotten at in more recent posts is I've said, this is the first time I've made enough of a living off my occupation to really pursue this sport seriously. And so my confidence in my ability to keep progressing in this sport has kind of gone up a little bit because I realized there was a lot that was being held back just purely due to finances. Because, living in America in 2025 right now, things are not cheap. I'm thankful that I even have the opportunity to try to pursue this sport, given how bad our economy and our financial situation is, for the average American. Social media is a very good deceiving viewpoint of the reality of our, life in America because you see so many, whenever you see people on social media, a lot of them are, popular. If you want to call them famous, I don't know what is considered famous nowadays because you can see somebody with, 500 million followers or you can see somebody with 100,000 followers, whatever. There's such a broad range. But what I'm saying is that the average person that you see on social media who's doing well in bodybuilding, they're already kind of like well known. They're really up there in popularity, and so most of them are living their best lives because they've already made it. Whereas a lot of us were continuing to pursue that goal and might only be known by a couple hundred people, maybe a couple thousand. It just depends on who you are. I've been at this since I was 12 years old, and I'm still, kind of not very well known, but my name's getting out there now, and that's pretty inspiring for me because the end goal is to be well known, not just as another bodybuilder, but somebody who had an impact. That's I think kind of what my goal is behind why I'm trying to do content creation now for the most part. I'm not like super consistent with it yet, but I just want to be able to have an impact on other people's lives like bodybuilding had on me. And that's kind of a post I made similar to on my story earlier on Instagram was I made a promise to myself a long time ago that I was going to make sure my name was remembered in some way, shape, or form in this sport. And it's not so much for this egotistical, self-centered mentality, but more so I want to be able to inspire and motivate others to be their best selves in the sport, like I have been motivated to by others. So that really is my only end goal is I know we all obviously have aspirations to be the biggest bodybuilder ever, like fucking Ronnie Coleman, but it's just not reality that all of us are going to ever reach that destination, because there can only be one, right? There can only be one Ronnie Coleman. There can only be one me. But only I can figure out how far I can go. Just like to any of you watching, there's only one way to find out for how far you can go. But the whole point of this video was just to kind of point out the reality. Like, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna have to start thinking a lot more than just, okay, I've got to take performance enhancements, I've got to work out really hard, and I've got to try to get my sleep. Like, yeah, there you go. That's the basics. And then you got to get the food, and then you got to whatever. There's so much more to it, and this is just kind of a reality check. Like, hey, if you say that you want to be a bodybuilder, have you considered all the potential setbacks that you can have towards progressing in this sport? And like I said, the biggest setback I had for the longest time was trying to get financially stable enough to even be able to afford to do all the stuff that I'm doing now. So like I said, I'm very fortunate. I'm very grateful. I've worked my ass off to get to where I am. And it's just hopefully an upward spiral from here. I don't want to, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself and, have something catastrophic happen in my life. But, I do everything in my power to avoid that if possible. And I try to take care of my health. I try not to do anything, that could put me in a position where I can't do bodybuilding anymore. So, you've got to be really self-preserving to try to, maintain everything you need to in order to be the best in this sport. So, yeah, I think I kind of got all I wanted to say out. Reality is I spend quite a bit. You're going to be spending quite a bit. Some of you are probably spending more than me. That's one thing I'll point out is, like, do your best to figure out how to save every dollar, because I know it's just dollars at first, but you'll find that there's a lot of corners that a lot of things that you might be putting money into that aren't worth it. Just like if I felt like the tissue work wasn't really working for me, I wouldn't be spending that extra $200 a month right now on tissue work. If I felt like my coach wasn't worth $300 a month, I wouldn't be paying him $300 a month, but he's every bit worth $300 a month. And honestly, I hope that it can stay that way. Because, I know as a coach, even though I don't have that many clients yet, I know that when the demand gets up higher and higher, eventually prices have to come up a little bit in order to not necessarily like price gouge people, but hey, like, I can only handle so many of these people at the same time, and I still want to be able to pour into everybody that I can, but also still have some left for myself. Because if there's anything I have come to realize about with my situation and having heard it anecdotally from others, it's like my situation, I work a 12-hour job, about half the month usually. It's usually 15 days out of the month I work 12-hour shifts. That can be pretty brutal on the circadian rhythm, especially working night shift where I'm working 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. But then all my time outside of work is eat, sleep, digestion walks, meal prep, grocery shopping, getting as much time as I can in with my lady, because I still got to make time for her. She's just as much of a priority in my life, if not more so. She's very, very special to me. And then trying to do coaching as well, and then still trying to be the best bodybuilder I can be, and somehow still getting 8 hours of sleep every night, or roughly, right? I definitely don't hit 8 hours most nights. It's usually 6 to 7.5 at most, 6 to 7. But yeah, that's like the true reality of it. It's like, man, you've got to really be on your game if you want to be in this sport. But you've also got to be willing to invest quite a bit of money into this sport. Oh, and don't even get me started. And this is the last thing I will say. Don't even get me started on the motherfuckers I see on social media who, like, I'm going to sound so shitty for saying this. And you know what? To each their own. So let me go ahead and clarify. Not everybody wants to be a bodybuilder. Not everybody wants to take a bunch of performance enhancements. I have nothing against you. But if you're complaining to me about how expensive the sport is, and I see you wearing Young LA or the newest Gymshark drop or whatever, all these expensive clothing brands that say I go to the gym, without saying it, of course, you need to put your priorities in different things. And listen, that's coming from somebody who's, I hate to say it, but I could probably upgrade to a large size pair of athletic shorts now, but I have medium pairs of athletic shorts that I've probably had since freshman year of high school. And I'm 23 years old now. I was 14 and I still have the same pairs of shorts. That sounds fucking diabolical, doesn't it? Wearing 9-year-old shorts still to this day. I don't know. I'm not wearing them right now. I have a pair of Under Armours. I know for a fact they're like 9 years old. The hoodie I was wearing earlier today, since sophomore year of high school, I've had that hoodie. It's an XL, but it fits. But the point being is that I don't spend my money on designer clothes or gym clothes. Maybe every once in a while, if I see something I really like and it's on sale, maybe. But I am not a consumer. I don't buy the stuff because I would rather prioritize that investment in what actually builds the body that I'm trying to create. So, not knocking any heads over here trying to say, like, oh, you're an idiot if you spend your money. By all means, do what you want. But if you're in a situation financially where you have to choose one or the other, I don't think I would be choosing the Young LA and the Gymshark. I'd be choosing the things that are more important, like the food. And that goes to say, too, that if you can't afford the food, you definitely can't afford the PEDs. If you can't afford the blood work and the health supplements, you probably shouldn't be affording the PEDs. Because most guys, or I say most, I know a lot of guys will take performance enhancements, no health supplements, no lab work, and I just think, it used to be like that, but it doesn't have to be like that now. It doesn't, and most of these guys are not going to last very long doing this thing. And most of them aren't even competing in the sport; they're just doing it for the sake of vanity in the gym. And once again, not knocking heads with anybody. You do you. If it's for your own self-confidence and it's what you want to do, you've assessed the risks involved with altering your natural hormones forever, then by all means do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, I always think to myself that if I was not competing in the competitive side, or if I was not competing in the sport of bodybuilding, if I was just doing it for the sake of going to the gym, I either would have never gotten on performance enhancements, or if I had a history of low testosterone or symptoms of low testosterone, I would have considered TRT. And of course, that's what I plan on doing later in life, is just TRT and maybe a small bit of growth hormone, just because growth hormone secretion reduces as you age as well. So, but yeah, that's kind of, I think I got everything out I wanted to say. I was trying to make this a little bit shorter than the last two, but yeah, guys, if you want to be good at this sport, get your money up. That's all I can say. Get your money up, because if you don't get your money up, you're not going to go far in this sport. You're not going to be able to afford it, or you're going to be in a situation where it's reckless to try to pursue the sport. And that goes to say, too, that if your 9 to 5 is not cutting it, then you're going to have to start considering maybe some other avenues that can help tack onto that income just a little bit more, like I'm doing the coaching right now. That's why I don't do it that expensive either, because, I get a few more people who reach out to me because I do it for cheap. But as I mentioned, the end goal, of course, or I probably didn't mention in this episode, but eventually I'd like to turn coaching into a full-time thing, but it's just not realistic with my situation right now. Even if I could, do coaching and then do personal training on the side, like in person, I'd have to update my NASM certification, because I think it expired June or July of this year, maybe a little bit later, but I'd have to recertify, I think, technically. I think that's gobbledygook, believe it or not, because it took me a week to review the NASM course, and then I took the exam in front of a proctored, online virtual exam, whatever, and I passed. And I know people who had to study for months to take their NASM exam and pass. So that's not me like trying to gas myself up, because to me, I thought the NASM course was honestly pretty freaking basic. Like anybody could pass that course who has a basic understanding of exercise physiology, diet, how to write a training program, different cycles, like macro versus micro cycles, in a given year. So NASM was pretty damn easy. If I had to go recertify, it wouldn't really take much. But what I'm trying to say by that is I feel like personal training certificates, whereas before I thought it was a good credential to have, it's a great one to like tag on to if you don't have any credentials besides that. But when I took it, I was like, man, I already knew all this and I didn't have to review for it. I could have bought a whole book, but I just took the exam and I passed. So I guess that was just the culmination of the last 10 years of my experience, um, that I kind of already, acquired without having to actually study the book. So anyway, yeah, that's gonna be the end of this video. I appreciate y'all watching. Let me know if y'all have any topics y'all want me to go over in this series, and I will try to get another one out here soon. All right, peace.